everybody, this is Ken again with Xmods Gaming, shooting another video. So this video is going to be about the Sega Game Gear Backlight LCD. Now this one's a newer version. It is one from China. It's only $45, so it's a cheap solution to a problem. And the problem is the contrast on the original Game Gear's LCD. It's backlit with a fluorescent tube. So there's a tube that runs across the screen in the back. So it's kind of just old technology. And as you can tell, these screens look a lot better. And the kit has a ribbon cable instead of just wires, so that's a nice touch. You can also get it with a glass screen. I didn't opt for that because I already have one installed. And then it has capacitors and resistors. Not really any installation guide, so that's why I'm shooting a video on it. So hopefully I can pull this off. You know, it also has where you can install these little touch in the casing if you want to change the colors of the LCD backlight, which, yeah, I don't know. It looks like they're already pre-installed, so maybe I'll just do that. And then I'll go ahead and show you real quick what the LCD looks like. So it's kind of all washed out, and you know, the one's already on the original. So yeah, I mean it's good enough with a dark room, shades closed. You know, you can have a fun time on this. The battery life only lasts about 3 hours. You know, you could probably get, and that's on 6 AA's. So you could probably get better battery life out of this just by upgrading the screen to LCD instead of having a big fluorescent tube. And, you know, the technology that's in the Game Gear right now kind of switches it from kind of like an AC to DC conversion. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep this video short because there's a lot to go over. And you know, prior to buying this, I don't know what revision of board I actually have because I just didn't feel like taking apart my Game Gear. But you want to find out if you have a like version 1 or 2 of the Sega Game Gear. If you have like a version 4 or Majesco, it's not going to work. And I don't know if anything talks about that I could show without showing my personal information, but yeah, that's kind of what the kit includes. And the instruction manual, I will post that in the comments below. All right, here we are with the Sega Game Gear. So I'm going to try to show you guys all the tools you need for the Sega Game Gear, and you know, how to get started. So basically, first and foremost, you want to make sure that your Sega Game Gear is recapped and you're buying the kit for the right revision. I don't think it's going to tell me on the back, so I do have to open it up. But yeah, it basically, if your screen's not working on your original Game Gear and you have no audio, then it could be the electrolytic capacitors inside your Sega Game Gear need to be replaced. Now, I bought this Game Gear like 3 years ago or so, maybe 4 years ago. And I bought one that was already recapped because every Game Gear that I grabbed that wasn't working, the capacitors already like ate most of the traces, or even if I touched it with a soldering iron, it would kind of melt the the trace right off, you know, the circuit board. So yeah, in the early 90s they had a capacitor plug, so it just kind of wiped out most of the Game Gears. So you know, you can get the games pretty cheap because there's not many Game Gears to go with the games. So if you want to avoid this situation completely and you want the screen, that I would get in touch with like one of the modders that do this for a living and try to find yourself a deal. So I would say a good deal on the cap replacement with the screen install would be about $200 to $250, you know. So that's what you're gonna pay to get one. It's already pre-modded. If you have advanced soldering skills, then this, you know, you can definitely do this. If you currently work for a electronics manufacturer or something like I used to, then you could probably pull this off. I'm kind of not so sure if I could pull it off because it is finer pitched than what I've done at home. So it's different when you're in a lab with a microscope and you have all the tools available to you to kind of pull this off. So speaking of tools, you need a desolder pump. So this is one. I'm not really going to go over how to use this, but you know, prior to getting started, you should probably get familiar with a desoldering pump. This is pretty cheap. It's like $4 or $5. Basically, as you melt your solder, you'll push the button and pull up on it, and the pump will suck in the solder. So this is an okay solution. A better solution and more expensive, this is probably where you want to, you know, buy your own Sega Game Gear that's pre-modded, is someone's already invested in a desoldering pump like this one, and you know, you just pull the trigger and, you know, kind of wiggle it, and you can remove the you know, this is for removing the tube and the fuses and stuff. So there are some through hole components that you need to remove, from what I can tell on the instructions that I've seen so far. Now there is like a game bit, so you're gonna need at least one game bit. You can buy these for on eBay for about $5 to $10. I like these kind because it does fit in my precision PC screwdriver that I paid a lot of money on back in the day. So it just fits in there and I can use it. And then a soldering iron. So this is probably at the minimum soldering iron I would suggest, and I would get soldering tips. This is a Weller soldering iron. The iron itself is the SPG40 is what it says, connected to a station. This is a WLC 100 model. These can range from like $70 to $100, something like that. I think the cost has went up, you know, in 2023 on desoldering stations. But yeah, this is probably the best and the cheapest soldering station you can get. What country is it made in? It doesn't say. Yeah, I got this in 2017, so I had it for a little while. So yeah, that's at the minimum. But yeah, you're probably gonna need the tips, a blade tip or a chisel tip. I kind of like the blade tip for removing stuff, and soldering pads, conical tips, which is the small pencil looking ones. Those are good for small soldering joints, probably on that ribbon cable. You know, you would want to use a tip like that, or maybe a flat wide tip. It kind of depends your style soldering. So like I said, if you've never done this before, then I'd probably leave it up to somebody else to do it. That's how advanced it is. But letting you know, there are screen options out there, and you know, I could probably cut the video and tell you to go with something like that. So the game bit's only used for this one screw. And I'm just trying to see what revision. Also, you need some kind of Phillips Jewelers type screwdriver. Yeah, it's deep enough to get in there. And, you know, if you're a hobbyist, you know, I'm not discouraging anyone to doing this, but, you know, I try to repair a couple broken Game Gears that had the cap issue. So even I get frustrated and just buy someone else's mod work, you know, so no shame in that. Because I figured if someone has done this tons of times over and over again, they're probably more knowledgeable on how to work with something that's this damaged already. You know, so they could probably clean the electrolytic fluid from the capacitors rupturing or leaking. So yeah, and you could buy just a standard Game Gear with the, you know, probably with the glass screen like I did. I spent like $90 on this, 93 I think to be exact. It's just not going to have the newer screen in it. If it does, it's probably just someone trying to get rid of it. Maybe they don't like Sega Game Gears or something. You can probably get lucky on something like that. But yeah, with this particular kit, it is only $45. So the other kits I've seen, like the McWheel was way back in the day, and that one was, dang, probably like I want to say like 150, 180. All right, so yeah, now basically you want to separate the two halves. So when you take the screws out, you just don't want to yank on this on it. I think that goes to the speaker. So this is the soundboard, and this is the power board. So yeah, someone replaced all of these. So these electrolytic capacitors are going to look different on your Game Gear. Yeah, so yeah, Phillips caps are in here. Yeah, so it looks like the guy did a decent job. So here's a fluorescent tube we're gonna have to remove. I think this has to be cut off, which is the cartridge shield. Just these tabs. I believe this screw boss is gonna have to be removed, which looks like it's cracked anyway for some reason. So where your game bit goes in, I believe we have to cut that off with flush cutters. So, oh yeah, revision is a VA1. So mine's a VA1. So I'll get the instructions for that, and then we'll move on to the next step here. All right, so I'm back. So after doing a little bit of research on this, and I watched some similar videos to this board, but it seems like I'm the only person doing a video about this particular board. Yeah, there's a screw pillar that you're gonna have to cut in half, so you can still screw the Game Gear together. So that's kind of a con. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going around and removing all these tiny screws. And I do have spare parts of other Game Gears and stuff, so I'm kind of fortunate in that regard. But yeah, if you only have one Game Gear, I could see this mod being kind of a turn off to do. So you just want to go around and remove all the tiny screws. Unfortunately, your daughter board connectors, these don't come off, but they only come off on the bottom half of the Game Gear. I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible. Yeah, we got the two longer, so your two bigger screws are for your cartridge connector. Yeah, I kind of debated doing a video on this because it's like one of those things, like, I didn't know if I can get it done. But since no one else is doing a video about it, I will do a video about it. Alright, so you're going to lift your Game Gear circuit board out. I'm just going to set that aside, and then I think with the kit they're saying to cut this screw post in half, probably with like a Dremel or something. I'll probably use a Dremel because here's the ribbon cables. It comes with two of them in my kit, so and this is the bottom that would basically solder to the bottom of this board right here. Okay, I'm just trying to get down to the screen itself. Okay, so yeah, it's gonna fit like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a tight fit. And then I believe this board is gonna go on the back side. All right, so I'm gonna just put everything back in the kit. Yeah, for the sake of not making this video like hours long. I'm just gonna kind of explain what to do. What I'm gonna do is remove the fluorescent tube and the fuses. So yeah, I'm gonna get started on that here. Yeah, so probably the buttons and the rubber membrane and all that I would just set aside because they're gonna fall out anyway for all your control buttons. So I would just set all these aside just to make your life easy so you don't lose them. And it helps to have like a mat like this that has a grid to it, so you can kind of know where to put all your screws at. Let's see, where do these black screws come from? Oh, okay. Came from the back side. All right. So yeah, I think all these little screws are the same size. And a good thing, I'd say with older tech, when they use Phillips screws, you could kind of just put everything in one pile if they're the same size screw, because it doesn't really matter where it actually came from. So I'm just removing the reflector on the back of the screen. And then what I'm gonna do is remove the tape that's holding the ribbon on. So yeah, these points here and here, you're gonna have to desolder those with your sucker or your pump, or you can heat them up and probably just pull on one end. It's up to you if you want to save this light, if you want to keep it intact. The fuses are right below it, so those have to be removed. And then the coil has to be removed. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then there's gonna be a lot of jump cuts in this video just to make my editing life easier. All right, so I removed the tape. I'm gonna try to zoom in nice and tight on this. And I have some Chip Quick Flux, no clean. So this is kind of optional, I guess. It's just gonna help the solder flow better. And I'm gonna try it with just the chisel tip I have on right now. And I'm gonna try to preserve this screen. Okay, that got a little hot. Which probably won't happen. yeah, it's kind of just ripping the pads up. So you just have to take this whole ribbon cable off. And yeah, I don't think there's ever going back to that screen. Just kind of touching up the pads. All right. And I want to try to like remove the solder on the pads. I'd probably keep the pre-existing solder, and you know, buy some flux, and that will help older solder flow better. Okay. Wow, that kind of just dropped out right away. All right, so we got our fluorescent tube removed. Let's see if you guys could see what I'm doing. Okay, perfect. And then we got a fuse here and also over here. So we're gonna remove our fuses. I was hoping it would just drop out, but yeah, they get kind of warm. And our coil, which is this yellow thing, we're going to go ahead and remove that. I'm going to see where the pads are for that. So I think it's these two little pads. And when removing old solder, you can always add fresh solder in. Alright, so we got our coil removed. Wow. So yeah, it kind of just messed up the coil, but okay, alright. So, alright, I'm gonna continue getting these fuses removed and then show you the next step. Alright, so it's been a few days since I shot the last segment of this video here, so there was just a lot involved and it probably would have been a 4-hour video, so I'm just showing you everything that you know, what you need to remove. The last segment there would show you everything you need to kind of prepare your Game Gear for receiving the mod for the new screen. So you got to remove tons of stuff here. So you got to remove these resistors, the coil, I believe I showed that. The transistors, you got to heat them up and remove those. The lamp, so I'll post this, the instructions in the whole videos, sorry, in the description, I mean, in the comments. So I'll post a link to the instructions here to help you out. Yeah, you got to cut off the metal shielding like that. So instead of having prongs sticking up, you got to cut that off. And then yeah, one of the hard parts is you got to replace resistor R24 with R30. I don't know why they just didn't give you an extra resistor. So yeah, basically R24 is like on the other side of the board somewhere, I think. R24. But yeah, and then R30 is like clear over here. Something like that. So that was difficult, and what messed me up is you have to change these resistors down here with 0 ohm or bridge them. I want to try to bridge them because I started pulling up pads, so that's what took me the longest. So I would just probably leave the resistors there and then just bridge them with a piece of wire across. Yeah, mine doesn't look so hot, but it's not shorting out. So that's what it looks like there. And then these touch buttons that you're supposed to install, I would just desolder those right away, because the foil ones I had, this one's from a Game Boy Pocket kit that I did a video on, and the other one's actually aluminum foil, because there's 2 copper foils that came with it, and by tossing the board around and everything, it got crinkled up and they weren't usable anymore. The tape, the wax paper on the back fell off. So yeah, I got loads of components over here you have to remove, and then you have to solder this ribbon. So I was getting a lot of segments in the screen, so I actually had to turn the Game Gear on and then just touch the solder joints until I got a complete picture. So it looked like everything was soldered on. I did pull this one up, that's why it looks janky, and then put it back down. But yeah, you got to solder pin 9 And then once you have that on, all these ones should be right if you have it level. And then you got your VCC. That's where I pulled it from. And then you got your what is that called? I forgot what that was called. SMS is pin 42 right there. And then what I didn't like about this mod is you have to solder connections. So I just used a piece of wire or component leg wire, and then just soldered that on, and then these I didn't have to do this. These are the buttons 1, 2, and 3. This is if you're only using VGA. So yeah, that's the completed mod, but I'd also highly recommend recapping your board with new caps. Right now, I'm just preparing this shell, because this is my original shell, but I have broken posts and stuff in here from the previous person that's been in here. So I took that glass screen off. Good thing it just kind of fell off. Like, he didn't prep it that well, whoever I bought it from. So I transferred the glass screen to here. And then to put the stupid touch pads, you have to sand this out. So that's another downside of this mod. I'd rather have some button combo you can press to change the colors and the contrast and the scan lines. So I'd rather have just like a button combination instead of these stupid touch pads. Because I put my meter on continuity mode, and this is all a ground plane. So this is like conductive paint. So you gotta sand that out of the way to put your touch buttons here for PT1 and PT2. I have to solder the other one on. But yeah, I'll go ahead and put this together and then show you guys the final product. Alright everybody, so I'm just going to show you the working product here. Now I got it all back together. Alright, so I got Sonic 2 in there. So the screen looks really good. Audio's really loud. But yeah, my touch sensors are not really working anymore. It's kind of janky, but yeah, you could change like the LED color for the backlight and stuff like that. But yeah, so I'm going to turn the volume way down. I mean, you could kind of just preset it. Let's see, the brightness wheel works, so you could set it bright or dim. So yeah, you could solder on the wires for the touch pads, set it to how you want it, and probably desolder it. I haven't tried that, but that would probably work. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. It has the scan lines turned on, but I don't think I could get those scan lines to turn off. And you could set the aspect ratio. So for this particular one, I don't think it's better than the McWill kit, but it's probably cheaper than the McWill. $45 for this kit on eBay. yeah, I got it hot glued in there on the screen, just so it doesn't fall out, because there's no bracket or anything. So you just have to put your dust filter on. This one's just an extra one from this broken, because this post is broken on this. And to place the screen, you gotta Dremel that out. So I did that. But for anyone who wants to do this, yeah, you could tell that whoever put that glass screen on there just slapped it on there. But anyways, if anyone wants to do this, I'd probably just have a professional do it. Probably cost you $200 to $300 to get a complete Game Gear. I highly recommend to at least recap the board, if anything, because if you have working Game Gear that semi works, whether if the audio works or the video works or both, it's not if your capacitors are going to fail, it's when they're going to fail. So I would do that no matter what before even installing this kit. But for any of those folks out there that rather have a professional do it, let's see, I would do that. With this video, you're not going to learn any soldering skills from watching people on YouTube, really. There's only so much you can learn from videos. But you're gonna probably benefit more from just practice and doing it. So if this is gonna be your first time and you really want this done to your Game Gear, I would probably send it into somebody that is a professional that can do it. So but other than that, I'll in the description I'll leave the step-by-step guide. And this is Xmods Gaming signing out.